Okay, I'm Mike Willis. We've got another Team USA Tuesday here. I'm joined by women's freestyle national team coach Jessica Medina. Actually, I think the first coach that we've had on a Team USA Tuesday session, but she's also been a world team member, national team athlete, USA Wrestling board member. So she's done it all. But Jessica, thanks for taking some time today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I feel very special to be the first.
Yeah, hey, well, we got this like short Thanksgiving week kind of, we want to change it up a little bit, do something a little bit different. Um, but I got a list of questions for you. Are you ready to jump into them?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. So starting off, what is your favorite movie?
I would say Kill Bill Volume 1.
Do you like the second volume?
Not as much as the first.
Fair enough. Are you a Tarantino fan in general, or is that like just the one that you're?
Oh, I definitely am, but Kill Bill has a special place in my heart. But yeah, love his movie.
Absolutely. Who is your favorite musical artist?
I would say Sublime.
Right on. So are they a artist you can listen to in the wrestling room, or is that just like just solely for pleasure?
I would say when I want to go back to my California days, I'll put that on and pretend back at home near the beach and sunny and good weather. Always takes me.
Very nice. Very nice. What is your favorite food? And then maybe also too, what was your favorite food to eat when you were like maintaining your weight?
Oh, okay. Tacos are my favorite. And I would say when I was maintaining my weight, I don't know why, towards the end of my career, after weigh-ins, I had to have salmon, rice, and a potato. That was my go-to meal. Now I'm not really fond of it.
Interesting. So when you're going for normal tacos, what's your protein of choice?
My protein, I used to love al pastor tacos, but now I just like pretty much anything with chicken or guacamole and then anything spicy. Make it up.
Gotcha. Is there like a specific taco spot that's your place, or do you do your own tacos, or both?
Yeah, all of those. So I love just making whatever. I feel like it doesn't matter what I have in the house, I can put it in a tortilla. So that's, staple. And then there's a couple places in town I like. Dos Santos has really good tacos. And then I used to work at a taco shop. So I'll still go there from time to time and visit. And it was like a Hispanic Hawaiian fusion taco place. So yeah, I love tacos.
Awesome. Yeah, if you can work somewhere and then not get sick of it, it's a good thing. I worked at a pizza place in high school for a while, and eventually the smell just got to me, and I had to take a hiatus from pizza for a little bit.
Oh no.
But there was like a couple months where I'm just like, I can't deal with pizza grease right now. Being in high school, you break out and everything too.
Oh.
Not fun. So what is your favorite sport to watch other than wrestling?
I would say football.
Who's your team?
49ers. Yeah, they've broken my heart a couple times, but I'm still a diehard fan.
Right on. Did you play any other sports growing up?
I played when I was in youth sports, mainly recreational. I wanted to try everything at least once. So I'll say I've had my hand in pretty much the majority of sports. As I got older, I ran cross country for 4 years. I ran track for 4 years, long jumped. I tried to play soccer. That was super competitive, but glad I tried. So
When did you transition to wrestling only?
um, not until I was actually a sophomore in college. I wanted to be involved in as many sports and clubs when I was younger. I just kind of had that spirit of try everything and do as much as you can and challenge yourself. So I was a 3-sport athlete the last 2 years of high school. And then I went on to college and I wrestled and I ran track for my freshman and sophomore year. Not a ton of events, but I was still a dual sport athlete, surprisingly.
That sounds crazy. I mean, being a single sport athlete in college, you got to have good time management and balance and whatnot. But what was it like juggling two sports?
Yeah, so I obviously was very dedicated to wrestling, and with women's wrestling, it was kind of an all year, sport. So it was hard to juggle the two of them, which is why I didn't continue on past my sophomore year. But I will say, like, it was tough because, I was an outdoor runner. And so when we'd go to the track on cold days, I'm like, I'm not sweating. I'm not losing any weight. I need to, especially if I had like a tournament coming up or something, I'm like, I just worked out for 2 hours outside and I'm cold and I'm not sweating. And I remember it was just hard balancing my weight and getting extra workouts in on the mat and then going to class, doing my homework. It was a lot. So luckily the coach worked with me to do both, but I wasn't super active in track.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. All your teammates on the track team must have been like, "Yeah, let's go carbo load now and get our calories back." And you're like, "Nope, gotta go to wrestling practice."
Oh, it was so weird going to a track meet. We're all there and we go to a team dinner, before we're going to compete. I'm like, this is odd for me. It was really cool. But it was nice to be around, a different set of athletes and people and mindset. It kind of kept me sane, to be honest.
Yeah. Who is your favorite wrestler to watch, either past or present?
Um, I would say specifically the first poster I had in my college dorm actually was of Stephen Neal. And at the time I didn't really know who he was. I just really liked the quote that was on it. And it was basically like, it's not about the parties that you missed. It's about the practices that you were at and the blood and sweat that you sacrificed. So I remember putting his poster in my dorm room, and that was like my motivation, some days when I'm like, all right, I want to be an Olympian. I want to be a world champ. I want to be a college champ. So yeah, and he's from California too. So I was like, wow, this is really cool. He's from my home state and yeah, so he ended up on my wall. And then when I finally got to meet him, I was a little starstruck. I was like, wow. And I'm 5'1" and he's a big guy. So I was like, this is Stephen Neal. So
Yeah, a bit bigger in life than he is on the poster.
oh yeah, I was like, he has no clue.
So when you're not, coaching or wrestling, what are some of your hobbies off the mat?
Yeah, so when I retired, I realized I didn't have enough hobbies. Now as a coach, I've made sure I've diversified a little bit on my spare time. So initially I started taking some dance classes. And then this summer I did a lot of camping. I bought a fishing pole. I started shooting. So I try to get outdoors and try new things.
I also bought a fishing pole this summer, actually. Funny that you mention it. And cause I was borrowing my buddy's pole. And I was like, I'm going enough. I should get my own pole. And I have caught nothing on my new fishing pole so far. So it went into the basement when the weather got cold, and it still hasn't caught a fish yet. So not working out for me. I hope it's going better for you though.
Yeah, you know what? Not really. Oh, I've caught a couple fish, but that's about it. Otherwise, like a lot of the areas around here are overfished. But I also really want to get into fly fishing, so which is more difficult. So I don't know if I'll catch.
Yeah, fly fishing, that takes real commitment because fishing you can cast off, sit back in your lounge chair, crack a book open or something. Fly fishing, you're in your waders, you're up to your chest, and you're really in it.
No, I like that. And you got to keep paying attention and focused. I'm like, I need something to do while I'm sitting there or standing.
Yeah, it goes from like a leisure activity to an actual, focused craft. But I've never tried my hand at it. Would definitely like to, though. It looks really cool. All right, so you can be funny or you can be serious with this answer. But what is your biggest fear?
Oh man, my biggest fear. Honestly, it's drowning. That's a serious one.
That's a good one. That's a pretty reasonable one. Yeah, no explanation needed on that one. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I can swim. I'm from California, but something about opening your mouth or trying to breathe in and sucking in water, that just terrifies me.
Yeah, uh, it's scary. um, so how did you first get involved in wrestling?
So I actually had never really watched a match. I didn't really know anything about the sport. It was actually through being on the cross country team. I had this teammate who ended up trying out for the wrestling team. And he had come to me and said, "Hey, you would really like this." He's like, "They have a hell week and it's really tough and we run these places and all this conditioning." I'm like, "That sounds really cool. I would love to try that and see if I could challenge myself." Because with cross country, I felt like we ran miles and miles and that was torture in itself for me. So I was like, I should be able to see if I can just try out. And I had no intentions of actually wrestling. I didn't know any moves. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I really just wanted to see if I could make the hell week. And then my intentions were to just walk away after that.
When did it become something that you were like, hey, I'm pretty good at this and I could probably go pretty far doing it?
So I would say it wasn't until my senior year. I started my junior year, got my butt kicked a lot, didn't quit, finished the season, went back my senior year and wanted to finish again being a three-sport athlete. And then it wasn't until I started competing against girls and my coaches started taking me to more events that I got to compete at the national tournament. Um, and again, this was all really new for me and for my coaches. So I ended up taking fourth. That year in California, I ended up taking second. So for me, I wasn't necessarily thinking about continuing or, wow, I'm really good at this. It was my coaches who were like, you still have an opportunity to grow. This is, just the beginning for you. You should wrestle in college. And for me, I had never thought about it. And once my coaches had told me like, hey, you can't quit now, that's kind of what got me. I'm like, man, I can't quit on myself now. I don't even know what my potential could be. And I love this sport. And you're telling me I have an opportunity to wrestle in college. So that's when it really hit me.
Yeah. So as I alluded to earlier, you've been all over the place with this sport, national team coach now, you were a college coach, you were involved with Beat the Streets for a little while. Can you just talk about what your journey through wrestling has been like, and again, just all the different sort of facets that you've been a part of in your time in the sport?
Yeah, it's been really amazing because, again, someone who doesn't come from a wrestling background to where I am at now, I would have never in a million years thought I'd be where I'm at now as a national team coach. And I think it comes back to that same spirit of wanting to try everything, wanting to challenge myself, wanting to, you know, at least see other perspectives, see what else I'm good at, niche areas and whatnot. So for me, I started off wrestling in high school against boys and then became a collegiate athlete. And so I wrestled 4 years at University of the Cumberlands. And then I went on to wrestle as a senior athlete. So spent some time on, 6 years on the senior national team and made a couple world teams. And then from there, I had retired in 2016 and I still wanted to be involved. I didn't want my career to really be the end of my relationship with wrestling or any opportunities I had. So I actually volunteered and I had become one of the members of the athlete advisory committee. And then I sat on the executive committee as a women's freestyle rep. So I did that for a while. Like you said, I once I decided what I wanted to do, which was go into coaching part-time, I was at Beat the Streets Philly. So I started off working with youth athletes in the inner city. And then, I came to a crossroad of, do I want to do this full time? So then I ended up coaching at a D3 college. And again, I think back when I was in college, I told myself I would never want to coach college. So here I am eating my words and I end up coaching at Ferrum College, and then as a head coach now. So that happened. And then now coming to the national staff as a coach, being an athlete just last quad and then coming full circle is a really special opportunity for me as well. And even, and I didn't mention this, but even towards the end of my career, I had an opportunity to train in a lot of different states and areas, including places like West Virginia, ASU. I trained in Illinois at Montini and coached a little bit there. So I've really been, and wrestling is what takes me to a place, and that's where my home is at. So for me, I follow the sport, I follow opportunities, and any way that I can get involved, whether I'm competing or not, I've just found my way to transition and stay a part of the sport. So it's been a ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, so you've really been all over the place, Jess, and you have a really unique perspective because of that. Do you think that you maybe, because of your experiences, kind of, have a view or an outlook that is kind of more well-rounded than some people?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, I've been a student of the sport, and I've been in it by firsthand experience. It's not something that I've, sat down and had to read information on how to be involved. I've lived it the last decade of my life, and I spent a lot of it dedicated as a senior athlete and beyond that. And it's taken me to a lot of new places and has given me a lot of insight to what, a lot of our female senior athletes are either going through or have to go through. And I think, especially when it comes to college opportunities, I think about how much I had and things that would have made my experience better. And I'm able to really give that insight. And then being a college coach and understanding the structure, working with admissions and understanding how all that works, but also knowing too, as an athlete, what I would be looking for. And so, I think I have this wealth of knowledge, and it's not necessarily, I can sit and pinpoint one thing. It's when I have conversations with people and I just start talking about the sport, there's just so much that I've experienced, so many places I've traveled to out of the country, in the country, so many friends that I've made, and experiences that are priceless and invaluable. And, I wouldn't trade any of it. And now, when I think about how to help parents, athletes, senior, our younger age group, anyone that wants to learn about women's wrestling, I just ask what would have made my experience better, and what did I have that I really valued and what worked. And then, brainstorm those ideas of how can we make it better now in this moment? And how can I help athletes figure that out for themselves?
How much has the sport changed since you competed?
It's funny that you asked.
Which wasn't really that long ago. I don't need to say that in
No,
every.
yeah, no. Honestly, though, I mean, I was a freshman at Cumberland, University of the Cumberlands, in 2004, and I had just graduated high school. And back then, girls wrestling was not sanctioned as a sport yet. It was still an unofficial state tournament. And then when I went to college, there was only maybe 5 or 6 programs that I was looking at. And to be honest with you, really 3 that I was thinking like, hey, can I really get better at these places? Are they competitive? Do they have a full roster? So, now looking at that, how many states are sanctioned and, like how many programs are there between NAI and NCAA? There's a multitude of options for girls now. And that's a huge difference from what I have. So it makes me so happy to see that growth. And, I think it's a limitless future with women's wrestling. And on the other end of that, it's so funny because before I retired, I was living in Arizona. I was training at ASU. And I remember Trish Saunders came in and, I was just having a conversation with her about like my training regimen and how to balance everything and get the right partners. And I remember her telling me her experience and what she had to do. And, she was a smaller wrestler. So she was like, yeah, I had to find the best high school boys, but then like I had college guys, we sparred, and then I had to go to different facilities, and then I had to go talk to parents, and then I had to make sure I had a good schedule. And I'm like, these are literally the same adversities that I'm having and challenges in my career. And so, I think that's even true today, especially that was being at an RTC. And I think that's still a challenge that's happening now. And it was so enlightening to hear Trish Saunders say like, same problem, different year, and maybe not so much a problem, but a challenge and adversity that really helped me take ownership of my career and what I needed, to be successful. So it's changed a lot, but wrestling's wrestling. There's a lot of things that are the same.
Yeah. And obviously there's a ton of people involved in the sport that are working to promote women's wrestling and to build more opportunities for women and, girls to compete in. But your job specifically, I mean, you are one of the people in a position to make a difference. And how cool do you think that is? I think that's really cool for someone to have grown up through the system and realize there's issues to put themselves in a place where they can make a tangible impact. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that, originally when I took this position um, back in April of 2018, or sorry, 2019, I wasn't exactly sure if I wanted to step back into this world because I knew what it took as a senior athlete. And now being a coach, I mean, it takes 10 times more, right? You're always available and you're the first one to get up, last one to go to sleep, making sure everyone's good. So, I remember what it was like being a senior athlete and, the glamour of it, is for the people on the outside. I think on the inside, the sacrifice and what the time that and the commitment that you have to have. So, I really thought about it, and I had talked to a few people when I was considering the position, and it was people within the wrestling community, whether it was senior athletes or um, organizations that support wrestling. And I remember across the board, people are like, you're the person to be in this position. Like you can make a difference. You can change policies. You can, understand where the athletes are coming from. You can do a lot of things if you take this position and embrace it. And I just remember thinking like, wow, people really think I can do that. Like, I didn't think of it in that way. I was just kind of in, my own program and still kind of laying those steps. In the first years of being a head coach. So I wasn't thinking about this huge, broad spectrum of what can I accomplish in the world of wrestling. But when I realized that I had that moment, I took the job and I thought, what do I want to do? I don't want to just come in and try to win medals. That's obviously the goal. That's the expectation, right? But what I wanted to do and still want to do is change the culture of what we teach our athletes and where their self-worth comes and their value. And I love that I can do that in the women's wrestling community and pour into them. So I think honestly, it's such a fun position to be in because we have such a great staff and I think anything's possible. So
Besides the Stephen Neal quote on your poster, what do you think has been the best advice or piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout your career?
I would say as an athlete, I remember someone had told me you are your best coach. And I think that really stuck with me because at the end of the day, you can have a great support system. You can have coaches, you can have teachers, parents, and all kinds of influences around you. But at the end of the day, you already have the answer. It's there. You might need to do some digging and asking and feedback and challenge yourself, but ultimately you can trust your instincts, your guts. You know what is best, what you need, and who you are. So, I think that applies to pretty much anyone who's, sometimes we think we've got to search for the answers, but most of the time you already know what it is.
So in a similar vein, what advice would you give someone that's just starting out in the sport?
I would say, I know this sounds redundant, but you have got to work hard. You've got to fall in love with the grind of the sport. And I think that that will never change from decade to decade and generation to generation. And if you do that, you will have, if you give your best effort, you do everything you possibly can, win or lose, you have something to be proud of.
So when athletes come on here, I always ask, what drives you during your toughest training sessions, your hardest practices? Where do you find your motivation? And I do have that question for you. When you competed, what drove you? But also as a coach now, what drives you to be the best coach that you can be?
Yeah, when I was an athlete, I was insane. I was always, I wanted to be the best, and I didn't know any better. I just was always like, what's the next goal? Who's the next person to beat? What's the next workout? I had this goal that just drove me day and night. And, I think that's the same now. I think now what drives me is the people, the athletes. Um, if it was just about me and it was about, my own accolades, I think that would not motivate me to give my best effort so consistently. Instead, I have people who need me and need my support, and also to be a role model. So for me, I think that's my biggest motivation, is how can I serve the people around me and give it my best effort. And, you know, it's on top of that, you know, we're looking for world domination. So I think that's enough motivation right there.
World domination will definitely get you out of bed in the morning, for sure, right?
Like, we're trying to be the best in the world.
All right, last question I got for you, Jess. I'm sure you got a lot to choose from, but what is your best wrestling memory to date?
um, okay, this is a funny one, but yeah, in 2009, I made my first world team, but that season was really tough for me. It was the first year I moved to the training center. And so I had a pretty tough season. I had finished fourth at the senior open. So, it wasn't really, I was the underdog coming into the world team trials that year. And I remember thinking, well, I've got nothing to lose. I put all this pressure on myself, but in reality, like, I didn't even win the US Open. So I remember I made it to the finals and I had to wrestle Patricia Miranda. And I remember I was just like in the zone because I was behind the stage singing Miley Cyrus at the top of my lungs. It's the climb. And I did not care who heard me. And I'm sure there's people around who were like, who is singing that so loud? And I just remember, like, I was in my zone. I was in another place. And it was me singing the climb, and I was ready to go wrestle. So
So Sublime is your chill music, and then Miley Cyrus is your game time, let's go music.
it used to be. It changes all the time. That's a special one. Well, I'll save it to 2009. It was a rough year.
Well, Jess, hey, thanks for coming on today and sharing some insight and a little bit of your unique perspective. It was really nice having you on, first coach on the feature. So really cool, and we appreciate everything you're doing, and look forward to seeing more of you and the women's freestyle team world domination.
Let's do it. Thank you.
All right, this has been another edition of Team USA Tuesday. I'm Mike Willis for Jess Medina. Thanks for tuning in.